I wanted to say that I started my first publications on the Boboli Gardens in Florence, so it's a topic near to my heart. And I also had the pleasure each year to go and teach in Florence every summer for a number of years. So coming back and having a chance to lend my support for this project has been very meaningful for me. One of the things that really struck me in looking over the materials was that, you know, Florence, unlike Rome, Naples, wasn't tied to papal or royal patronage, but the Medicis really were industrialists, and they were very smart industrialists because they got the other families to come in and to buy into their vision of an artistic center. So they really put the focus on the arts and craftsmanship and brought in the best of everyone. So it flourished in Pietrodore, it flourished in Maiolica, it flourished in tapestries, and created this wonderful artistic center. So in thinking about why Florence was ideal for Florens 2010, it kind of struck me that today it continues that intersection between arts and industry. Not only is it a leader in the arts, but it's also a leader in the luxury industry and economy as well. I think some of the things that we begin to notice when we look at the historical and look at the contemporary are between industry and cultural institutions today, we overlap in many of the same areas. So when I'm thinking about management issues, you know, as a museum director today, I think the field has changed tremendously. You know, most of my day is spent on finance issues. I'd love it to be in the collections, but that's not the world anymore. So looking at what is facing my business compatriots and what is facing my colleagues in museum work, I think that there is much to be learned in this overlap together. I think the other issue where we have overlap is who the consumer is and how that has changed today and how we reach out to this consumer. You know, we're all looking at very similar issues about how to approach the young and how to get them interested in what we do, and whether that is a cultural legacy or whether that is an industry and the economy, it's the same thing. I know one of the things that I've had to become very involved with is social networking. And using technology as a way of reaching out and bringing in new audiences. And it's not just bringing them in, but it's keeping them involved. And the way in which we're looking at these issues, the way in which we look at the way in which we license, the way in which we work with our constituencies. I think an opportunity to assemble in Florence and have a chance to explore these issues together is going to benefit not only the cultural community, but it'll have a wonderful impact to create dialogue between industry and the arts in a way that we haven't seen for, what, the last 600 years. So I'm delighted to be here today and lend my support for this conference. Thank you.
And before we take questions, I'd like to now turn to Ms. Sara Cedar-Miller, who is the historian and official photographer for the Nature Park Conservancy here in New York City. Her books about our national and local treasure, our international treasure of Central Park, are recognized internationally. She has long had an appreciation that what is green in our city continues to serve us, not just for inspiration, but for life itself. So, Ms. Cedar-Miller, please.
Thank you very much for having me today, and it's a wonderful opportunity for me to personally speak about two places that absolutely changed my life, Florence and Central Park. I was a student in Florence in 1965, and I started there in the Syracuse University program as a political science, a political history major, and within 2 weeks of being in Florence, I switched to becoming an art history major, which I am to this day. So I am grateful for that. And of course, 20 years later, I got a phone call to become the photographer of the very new fledgling organization, the Central Park Conservancy, that was in the process of trying to raise money to restore Central Park, which was as a disaster, as many of you remember, as the flood of Florence. I was not literally a mud angel the way Anne was, but I was a mud angel like all of the Conservancy staff in trying to raise money to help this cultural and amazing work of art. Most people don't realize that Central Park is an entirely designed landscape. 50% of it is above ground, what you see of natural elements and built landscape, but below it is a whole infrastructure that keeps the beautiful landscape going, and that was, at that point, 125 years old. It was a disaster, and it's when the miracle of Zenobia happened in New York City. New Yorkers decided to take back their park. The Central Park Conservancy with the City of New York formed a public-private partnership, which is to this day 30 years old this year. We have raised $530 million and restored the park to becoming, once again, the most famous park in the world and the most beautiful. In its 30 years, in its 152 years of existence, Central Park today has never been better managed nor more beautiful, thanks to the Conservancy. But the Conservancy is nothing more than New Yorkers, private individuals, corporations, the business community, and foundations who have decided that they cannot wait for the vicissitudes of government and politics to take back the park. They decided to do it themselves and have raised this money from everything from Girl Scout cookies to lemonade sales for a few pennies a day to the wealthy New Yorkers and corporations who have banded together. We are, without question, the most successful public-private run park in the world. The City of New York in 1998, most people don't realize, actually turned over the management of Central Park to this Conservancy in under an 8-year contract. Mayor Bloomberg re-signed a contract in 2006, and it has never been more beautiful. We are a cultural institution. We have a collection of trees. We have collections of statues, an outdoor museum of decorative Victorian art that is magnificent and photographed throughout the world. New York City's #1 tourist attraction outdoors, and in rival with Times Square, but we are the most beautiful one, of course. And we are leaders from parks around the world. People come, how did you do it? How can we do it? We have China, Chile, Denmark. People have come from everywhere. I think I gave a tour to the mayor of Rome a few years ago. You were there, right? Weren't you there? So, that was wonderful. And people are learning about the model and the best practices of the park. And we want to spread the word. The world needs, we're in a greening environment. We are a very man-made and natural resource for cities. Cities cannot live without parks. People need to be green, and Florens, of course, is a word for flowers, and it's also what we have in Central Park and what people need around the world. So I am happy that the Conservancy supports this wonderful endeavor to bring greening into the cultural institution, because most people do not remember that parks, urban parks in particular, are very much a part of the culture. Thank you.
Thank you.